All right, that's about good. You know, what I've learned with the sound stuff and the editing is you got to leave a little bit of like space where you're not talking and it's just the background noise of the ground or something like, or the floor, the sound floor, so that you can edit out the stuff. So I try to get better with that because usually when the camera starts and the mic's going, I'm like, hey, who, ha, what's going on? And then when I go back to edit, I'm like, shit, there wasn't enough time to edit out all that background noise or whatever.
My son told me, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but I think he said it's the millennial pause,
Oh, yeah?
right? He said you can tell if the content creator is older if there's a pause at the beginning.
Yeah?
Like most younger people just get into it. Like the video starts and it's taking off.
Yeah.
But the older the creator, the more there's dead space
Really?
before the video starts. Now I know you say you have dead space so you can edit it that way, but I think he called it the millennial pause.
The millennial pause. Okay,
called it.
interesting. So, Brett, how are you doing today?
I am super fantastic. How you doing, Tom?
Nice, I'm really good. So, of course, we're live on TikTok. We're recording a podcast as well. We're going to try to look at some of the comments. We've got some viewer questions and whatnot. Maybe we'll be able to get to that or not. But today's episode is all about relationships. So we're going to dive into relationships you have with a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, friendships, colleagues, things like that. We'll just talk about relationships.
Family.
Yeah, family, absolutely. There can be really good relationships and really not so good relationships. So maybe how to determine whether or not the relationship is indeed uplifting or helping you or a good relationship to maintain, or if that's a toxic relationship and maybe you need to exit stage left.
Or at least put boundaries on it or do whatever it is.
And then how the hell do you do that? So
Right.
that's what we'll dive into today.
Relationships, they can be your biggest source of support or your biggest source of consternation. Ooh,
That's a great word.
I just used a new word.
That's one of those dollar words.
Consternation.
Do people still say that?
I don't know. I do, but
That's
I'm
a dollar word.
So they could be your biggest source of support. They could be your biggest thorn in your side.
Sure. Well, it's why when we get into meeting somebody for the first time in a therapy session and we do, biopsychosocial, whatever you want to call that, the initial assessment, we ask about the relationships in your life, family, friends, significant others, romantic relationships, just to kind of get an idea of how much support or are there any risk factors. So,
yeah, risk factors mean genetically predisposed. So, we are genetic individuals made up of DNA and, from generations past. So we are carrying the genetic code of our ancestors, years and years and 1,000 years before. So we are genetically predisposed for certain things, just like we're genetically predisposed to be bald, have brown eyes, be devastatingly handsome.
Right.
I mean, that's the burden I have to carry, Tom.
Yeah. I haven't experienced that for me yet. Maybe.
But I mean, the genetic disposition is not just your looks, your hair, style, your height, your weight, those kinds of things.
Sure.
But it's also your mood. It's also your ability, your internal born ability to be resilient, your ability to how you react to anxiety. Those kinds of things can be. Now we can learn and we can overcome our genetics, just like, hey, I can kind of overcome my genetics of bald. I can wear a wig. I can go to a hair club for men and get some hair follicles surgically transplanted. So I can overcome my genetics.
Right. I'm not only the president, I'm also a client.
I'm also a member.
Yeah.
So we're working with that.
Now, when we are young, our families are like the first social interactions that we have. So we learn about how the world operates, how to interact with others by observing our family system, observing what's happening in and around our family. And whether you like it or not, you have absorbed those ways of behaving and reacting or responding to others that you're going to continue with over the course of your life. And so a lot of people don't realize that you know, even if you had a poor childhood or you don't feel like the interactions were good, you don't feel like there was love involved, you still learned how to interact with the world around you. And so if you're having challenges in your current relationships, it's important for us at therapeutic environment, or for you just to do some you know, insight into your own family dynamics and what it was like growing up, to see what was occurring when you were young and how has that impacted your life now and your current relationships. Maybe there's something you want to change regarding that.
You're right. We're an accumulation of our experiences, right? Antecedent behavior, consequence. Something happens, we respond to it, and then something happens after our response. ABCs, antecedent behavior, consequence. And your whole life is about accumulating ABCs. And in your primary family, when you're insulated and isolated, you know, for the most part, around learning your ABCs in your primary family, and then you branch out and go to school and your world gets a little bit bigger, right? And then you get older into a teenager and you branch out in the world a little bit more and you become a little more independent. And then maybe you leave your parental home and you go to college, or you get your apartment and get a job, or go to the service, or do whatever it is that you do. Your world keeps getting bigger. And so your influences get bigger, and you learn different how other people's ABCs, and you watch other people in their ABCs. I've always said that the human brain is hardwired to learn things. We can learn things like that. That's how we're built.
Sure.
What we're really poor at doing is unlearning old bad habits. We can learn. We have a hard time unlearning.
Yeah.
So even if you know, and as your world gets bigger, you recognize, oh man, that's not, you know, that's not how the world operates. I learned this in my primary family or in my small sphere of influence, and that's not how I want to be or how I want to react to things as an adult.
Right.
So we consciously know that, and we can learn other responses. Unfortunately, we have this hardwired code, and we have automatic responses. So you may automatically just respond like you used to, not that you want to, but how you used to, because it's an automatic response. Because those ABCs are cemented in by years and years.
Yeah.
And that's what therapy is about. We teach people how to push down the unlearning thing and really ramp up and on the learning, and it's reinforcing that learning, right? So it's practicing and being aware of my automatic responses, etc.
One of our friends, Blazerman, is here in the session, in the live, and he wrote in, have you read Getting the Love You Want?
I have not.
I have not. And he also writes, that book talks about this too. Good stuff for relationships. Interesting. Thanks, man. Thanks for the referral. So we could check that out, put that on the list. And we love reading, you know. Yeah. I love reading all kinds of stuff, inspirational stuff or therapeutic stuff. Also, just fun books that like are a ride that it's a page turner and you can't put it down, but it's not relevant to therapy or anything. It's just like enjoyment. So thank you for that referral. We appreciate that. We'll have to check that out. There was something I was thinking about on the ride over here, but let's first jump into, for you, Brett, what denotes a good relationship?
A good relationship to me is a relationship that I'm comfortable in. Not necessarily initially, but you know, on a longer term basis. I'm comfortable, I'm uplifted, I'm challenged, I'm respected, and I am celebrated.
Yeah.
And not, I don't mean you got to throw me a party. I just mean that, you know, if I'm saying, you know, I'm having a hard day or something, you know what can I do to help? What can I do to support you, kind of thing.
Yeah. I like those. I think if you find those characteristics in somebody, whether that's a friend or a significant other, then that can be really good, helpful, uplifting, therapeutic, all of those things. So, contrary to that, if you are having somebody who is disrespectful, who is constantly putting you down, who is criticizing you at every end, who is not validating you or your feelings, doesn't mean they have to agree with it. They just have to, good relationship. I could see why you would feel that way. You know, well, how can we fix that? What do we need to do to problem solve together using both of our strengths? That would be not so good. That would be
Right.
a more unhealthy or toxic relationship if you're experiencing those. On the ride over here, I was thinking about how um, even though I consider myself to be a good therapist, and a lot of people would agree that, hey, Tom's a pretty good therapist, he's pretty helpful. I have a high degree of emotional intelligence, empathy, experience with working with a lot of people. Aside from that, just having those things doesn't mean that I can actually insert myself into somebody's mind. I truly do not know what it's like to
Right.
live as somebody else. I can
Nobody
get a
does.
good idea
Right.
based on experiences, based on behaviors, based on everything I've learned in mental health and therapy, but I still have no idea what it's like to live as somebody else. And that's me as a therapist. What about somebody who's not a therapist, who's just navigating regular old relationships? They have no idea, even if they're really empathetic, even if they're really in tune, even if they have psychic abilities, they still don't know what it's like to live as their partner or as that other person. So I think it's important to take that into consideration. You don't know the accumulation of all the ABCs that happened in their life, all these little pieces and parts, even things that we don't realize are impactful to us can be. And so you don't know the full breadth of what it's like living as that other person. So I think it's really important when you're in relationships, friendships, couples, whatever, to defer to that person and ask a lot of questions, be inquisitive, and try to really get to know what it's like, from their perspective, through their lenses, what it's like living as them. You're not going to have the same experiences. We're not going to have the same interactions with others. We're not going to have the same set of traumas and all that. So you can't truly know or assume what it's like for them.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of couples get bound up, is that they assume that they already know how that person's going to react. They assume what that person is thinking. They assume what the person is feeling. And then they have a reaction based off of that instead of asking them what they're thinking or
Right.
asking them how they're feeling and that how they're experiencing life in this situation, and then holding the space for that.
Right. So in my work with couples, very common themes come up all the time. Number one is they just don't understand how I feel. They'll never understand how I feel, and so that turns into the issue. They don't understand me, so they put endless amounts of energy into trying to do the whole understanding. When I get to the point is it that you want to be understood, or is it that you just want to be supported? Because nobody is ever going to 100% understand you, like you just said. Right? I don't have to understand why it is you think the way you think and you feel the way you feel. That's not the most important. The most important thing is that I support you in whatever it is you think and feel.
Yeah.
Right? It's the support, it's the respect, it's the acknowledgement.
Yeah.
So I always why is it important for them to understand? Why is that your goal?
Right.
How did you come to that goal?
If my wife chooses to believe that the sky is purple for some reason, it's so much more important for her that I validate that and say, I can see why you feel the sky is purple. I don't have to believe that the sky is purple.
Absolutely.
And you know what? If somebody comes and tells my wife, well, you're a fucking asshole and you're wrong for thinking the sky is purple, I'm going to say, what the fuck did you just say to my wife?
Exactly.
It's fucking purple, bitch.
Right.
And I'm going to go with it. Right.
Exactly.
That's more important for our relationship, and I know it's silly, it's an innocuous thing, but that's not going to happen. But just for all intents and purposes, for our relationship, more important for us to be aligned, And I think so many couples get wrapped up in clarifying things. And is it more important to be right, or is it more important for you to be happy?
Right.
I choose the latter.
For sure. For sure. The other thing is we talk about relationships, and this concept was always helpful for me, and I've explained this many times, and people find this helpful for weird reasons. But anyway, there are two types of relationships. There's complementary relationships and there's completing relationships. And let me explain that. So a completing relationship, you ever know those couples that they look the same. They like almost have the same haircut. They
Right.
act the same.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just like the same person.
They
right?
finish each other's sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. So you know those couples, right?
Yeah.
We would probably consider those completing relationships.
Yeah.
And what that means is, and I'm just pulling a number out of the top of my head. And this does not mean anything, but say say those people have like an 80% ego intactment, right? So they kind of know themselves pretty well, but there's some outlying issues where they're not real comfortable, maybe some self-concept. I mean, it could be anything, right? So let's just say they're 80% ego intact. They look for somebody just like them
Yeah.
to complete that 80% to 100
Yeah.
because they're similar and they're more like me, so they're more likely for me to be able to close my circle, right?
Yeah.
Be 100%. Those are completing relationships. Then you have complementary relationships where it's the same person and maybe is 80% ego intact, has some things that they're still whatever, but their self-concept is strong enough where they're okay with 80%. And they look for somebody that's a polar opposite because they want different perspectives. They want different experiences. They want to have the flip side, somebody that is completely different from them. And you know those couples too that are just polar opposites.
Oh yeah.
So, and there's everywhere in between. There's, 100% completing and 100% complementary, and then there's something in between.
Sure.
And we're all somewhere in between.
Right. Those are the extremes,
Right. And one relationship type is not better than another. They're just different.
Right.
So
and we have different attachment styles, different ways that we attach, good and bad,
Right. Avoidant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's based on how you attached, in your first social interaction with your family.
For sure.
I can't stress this enough, especially I do that in couples therapy, but also just, working with individuals, that you need to be like complete yourself. I mean, I know none of us are always going to be 100%, perfect. It's a journey we're working towards, however, you can't look to somebody else in a partner, friend, whatever, to complete you. And I know that's the fun, oh, you complete me, or you had me at hello and all that, Jerry Maguire type of stuff. But that's not accurate. That's not how life really is. That's just in the movies and in fairy tales and whatnot. You have to be your own person. You have to be complete yourself because there's nobody out there who's going to be the exact perfect match for you that's going to make you whole yourself. And I know twin flames and soulmates and you complete me type of shit. I want the person to feel and to be content with themselves as a whole entity in and of themselves before getting into a relationship, or at least if they're in a relationship, find out how to be whole themselves. And I mean, maybe I'm not using the right kind of language to describe the concept that I'm thinking, but you can't look to somebody else to finally make you feel okay or important or like you matter or you're good enough. You have to feel all those things first. Then you can be a healthy, successful partner for the other person. If we go into a relationship as a codependent, or even as like somebody who is controlling or more narcissistic, and we're looking at other people to validate us and who we are, whether I sacrifice everything or whether I just control everything about the other person in order to feel okay myself, it's never going to work as a healthy relationship. There's going to be issues and problems. But if you go into a relationship, I'm complete and perfect just the way that I am. Now I want to share my life with somebody else who is complete and perfect, ideally. Then those are the trappings of a really healthy relationship. That's indicative of having a relationship that has trust, mutual respect, and the ability to make each other even better than you are as a whole person. So I want to be 100%, and then because I'm with my wife, she makes me 150%, and I her. Things like that.
Right.
Instead of this, well, I'm only at 73, and then I need somebody to come complete the other part of me.
Right.
The other person, because of their own experiences, they're never going to be enough.
Yeah.
So anyway, I can't stress that enough in healthy relationships. And that goes for friendships as well.
People come to me, when people come for couples therapy, it's usually like way down the line when they should have started 6 months or a year ago.
Yeah, right.
They come after a lot of damage is done. But what I tell most people after I've talked with them a little bit, your marriage or a long-term relationship or a partnership is like a cake, right? And you want to have the best sugar and the best flour possible to make the best cake.
Yeah.
So what that means, and I talk in analogies because that's how I think, but so the individual people need to have their own individual therapy or do their own, not just therapy, but do their own work.
Right.
Work on themselves. I need the best sugar I can be. You need to be the best flour you can be. So when we come together, we can make the best cake possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gavin, what's up, man? Gavin just joined. He's a friend of
Hello,
ours.
Gavin.
Good to see you in here. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I know it's something that we're always approaching. Life's a journey, and we're always improving. So, we're never going to be completely perfect and 100%, but I guess close enough to it. Because if you're looking for somebody else to complete you, so to speak, then you're going to find yourself in unhealthy, probably toxic relationships, and you're not going to get your needs met. And it's going to be a pattern of behavior over and over again. So once that relationship fizzles out or blows up or whatever, you're going to be looking for the next person, still not complete yet,
Right.
to fill that void. And you feel empty inside, you feel distraught, you feel depressed, you feel suicidal, you feel all those things, right? And then as soon as I can get somebody else to fill that space, then I feel okay for 2 weeks. And then you start to see, as the relationship progresses, that they're not totally perfect because they got into it for the same kind of reason. They're looking for somebody else to complete that missing void in them.
Right.
And then it just doesn't end up being a healthy relationship. We see this all the time.
The other issue we see all the time is we talk to people and they're like, I have been in one failed relationship after the next. And, it's this person, then this person, then this person. And I'm like, tell me the similarities between those three people, the last three failed relationships. And they're like identical people.
Yeah.
Right? So subconsciously, we're attracted to a certain type of person.
And two of them had the same name, right?
Yeah. And they're not the person that we're really looking for, right? We can say, I'm looking for somebody that, is family oriented, that, has a good job, steady job, is steady Eddie, kind of thing. And, wants family life and, buy a house and take care of a yard and maybe have a kid and, a dog and whatever. But then the last three guys were all, or the last three people were all at the bar 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
So how does that, you know what you want, but then you're going after people that are not going to fill that need. What's up with that? And it's just like, I don't know. That's what that I was just really attracted to them. And I'm like, okay, that's your subconscious.
There's a reason why.
That's your subconscious working, right? Your subconscious is drawing you to people. There is probably, okay, let's just, analogy, okay? There's a woman, 3 failed relationships, the guy's in the bar 4 nights a week. That's not kind of what she's looking for, though, that she keeps doing. So she goes to a bar to meet somebody. Well, that's fine, but whatever. But even if they go to the bar, right, there's the guy that's in the bar 4 nights a week, and then there's 3 guys right here that come, once a week or every other week or once a month kind of thing. And they're kind of what you're looking for, and you're going to be drawn right to that guy. That's a lot of subconscious. That's your accumulation of your experiences, your subconscious. It's what you're attracted to. And you didn't even look at these guys. These guys didn't even were not even a flash in your head. And it has nothing to do with looks. It's what your subconscious is.
What your subconscious is going after. Because that's all the things that have been built up in your mind that you've learned over time. It's autopilot.
Yep.
Here's another thing that we see in therapy is that we work with an individual, and we don't see them as a couple necessarily, but we work with an individual, and they start to get better, which, hooray for them. Their partner, even though they identified that person that we're working with as the patient or the problematic person or the person that needs help or needs sobriety or something,
Something.
Fix anger, fix, whatever. They start to get better and they're feeling really good about themselves. Their partner is still stuck in the previous comfort of the relationship before when they were screwing up, when they were drinking, when they were,
Angry.
throwing shit around the house, whatever. And so they want to get back subconsciously
Mm-hmm.
to the old way because that's what they know.
That's what I'm attracted to subconsciously. This is what I
Right.
know. This is what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. So then they sabotage
Mm-hmm.
the relationship, you know.
Right.
And we see that time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have an individual getting better, and I see this or get some wind of maybe their partner sabotaging it, then I want to try to move in either them coming in for couples work and to describe the fact that the whole family needs to change or that the marriage needs to change, or refer them out to another therapist or encourage that other person to go get therapy. Sometimes that works out really well. Other times it doesn't. The person doesn't want therapy, or they go to a therapy and they start, bad mouthing their spouse, and then that therapist is like, "Yeah, he sucks," and then
Yeah.
it just blows up and gets worse from there.
Right. Yeah.
Very complicated working with couples, and uh, challenging work, but rewarding, especially when I see couples that finally like get it and they start to heal individually, and then they come together and then they can be good for each other. That's what I love seeing.
So, relationships, your biggest source of support, your biggest thorn in your side. They can be the best thing for you or the worst thing for you. So, if your relationships are not where you want them to be, think about that. What is it that I'm looking for? What is it, if I woke up tomorrow, the whole miracle question. If I woke up tomorrow and my relationship is exactly how I want it, what would it look like? What would it smell like? What would the interactions be in it?
What would be different?
What would be different?
And that fuels a sense of hope.
Picture that in your head.
Yeah.
What it is you want it to be, and then you can make steps to get there.
Right. Then we can reverse engineer it. Okay, if this is ultimately what I envisioned, what I would really like to see, what do I need to do to change to get there? And
that's the only thing you can do is change yourself.
Right. Yeah. And if you share that vision with your partner, they can, or they have the opportunity to do some introspection, to gain some insight, and to make some positive changes that could lead them to that ultimate goal. That would be important for your partner to get an understanding of what your vision is, and for you to get an understanding of what their vision is, because that might not be in sync.
Right.
That would be really important for couples to get.
One more concept, a little trick that I've taught couples and they found very helpful is, let's back that up. Do you ever feel like in a relationship you have the same fight over and over again?
Yeah.
It's just like a rinse and repeat. We have the same damn argument over and over and over and over and over again. That's number one. Well, there's a reason for that, because you haven't resolved. There's something that's unresolved. So do that. But the other trick that I've taught people is, when your partner is telling you a story, oh, this happened at work, or I got a flat tire, whatever's going on, my relationship with my mother, et cetera, et cetera. Most of us jump into fix-it mode. Well, if you just, tell your mother to blah, 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 or, tell your boss this and that, or, this is what you should do at work. Okay. Most people don't need an answer to their problems. Most people just want someone to listen to them, right? They want to get it off their chest. I mean, the whole point, one of the points of therapy is just being able to verbalize something. If I can, get it off your chest. So that usually turns up into, you don't listen to me. I'm telling you that, and, well, you should do this. Well, I don't, and then and there we go. And then the night's over with, right? So when that happens and you finally start, when this argument starts at this point, you either point to your head or grab your earlobe.
You want my head? You want my ears?
Do you want my head? Do you want me to think this through with you and offer some suggestions on solution? Or do you just want me to listen to you right now? And once you do that, and once, you grab and she just grabs her ear or he grabs her ear, and they just want you to listen, then, the pressure's off. I don't have to problem solve. I just need to listen and support. But if they point to their head, then I've got to think, I've got to strategize and that kind of thing. So when you're having a conversation, let your partner know what your intention is. I just need you to hear me, or I need you to help me think through this.
Right. Hey, Amanda's here. Good morning, Amanda.
Hello, Amanda.
Welcome. Always good to have you in here. Here's a hack that couples can use that could really help the relationship. Because even if you're listening to us and you're saying, well, actually, my relationship's not so good, here's something that could be a good start at helping to pave the way towards healing, towards crafting a better relationship. And it's very simple. You ask your partner every day in the morning, or if they're not a morning person, maybe lunchtime, what is something I can do for you today to make you feel like you're important to me? And you might get a response that's different than what you assume. And whatever they say, do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you do nothing else, right?
Build
You
me a
do that thing.
gazebo. Today?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And okay, if it's build a gazebo, you know,
I'll work on
okay,
it.
well, show some movement on that,
Right.
you know. Okay, I understand, and you don't have to say all this, but I'm just kind of, you know, verbalizing it. I understand that you really would like for me to build a gazebo, that would make you feel like you are important to me. So this is what I've done. I've downloaded the plans, you know, for it from this website, and then I've priced the wood, you know, do you want, you know, pine? Do you want cedar? Do you want, you know, and
just make some movement.
I got a budget of this is how much the materials are going to cost. And so I'm going to go in and make sure that, you know, we have enough, or I'm going to put some money aside, or what have you. And then on Saturday, I'm going to go get the materials, and then it's probably going to take me ideally, you know, 2 weekends or 3 weekends or whatever. You know, I'm going to make all the cuts. I'm going to do the sanding. I'm going to get the foundation set, and then, you know,
That's a great
some
hack.
movement,
Yeah.
right? Just show some level of, you know, movement on it, even if you don't totally accomplish. You're not going to like call out sick from work so you can go home and build a gazebo for your spouse, but just show that, hey, I'm considering that. I'm looking into it. I'm researching it. I'm gathering materials. I'm formulating a plan. That's enough, I think, for any spouse or partner to be like, all right, you know, you did what I asked. You showed that I really do matter to you. If you do that over the course of the next week, month, year, see what happens.
Right.
Good things happen if you do that.
You know, as we close up here, you have a hack, or no, you have a definition of 3 key things for a healthy relationship, and I've always loved that.
Yeah.
What are they?
Trust,
Trust,
mutual respect.
mutual respect.
We make each other better.
We make each other better.
And I don't have a word for that last one. So just the concept of, you know, like me at my absolute best, I can get to this level. I know if you're just listening to this on the podcast, you know, my hands up like towards my head. And because of my partner, because of all their strengths and their abilities and how that person supports me, I can get even higher than that. So it's not
We
about
make each other better.
Yeah, we make each other better. So, and if you have those 3 things,
Trust, respect, and we make each other better.
it's a really good relationship. If you don't have those things, we have to get those 3 things in some fashion.
But those are 3 cornerstones. So maybe you got 2 and you're working on 1, but at least you know where to put your energy.
Yeah.
But I think that you've told me that years ago, and it's always stuck in the back of my head. And I think it's a keeper.
And those are the 3 keystones that, you know, that's the very foundation I want to build so that we can have a successful relationship moving forward. We have to fix these things first, then. Just like we talk about in our Top Sand community, which if you haven't viewed that yet, check it out. It's a link in the show notes on the podcast. It's on my website, suggestiblemind.com. It's got a link to it. That's a community that we've built for mental health support, for just daily, what do I need to take care of? How do I level up for today? Helping each other out, you know, just there's going to be a lot of good things. And we were planning a lot of interesting things, lives, check-ins, mornings and evenings, yoga, I think all kinds of great stuff coming up. So we'd love for you guys to be a part of that.
So it is a community that supports each other on their journey to my life is a 10.
Yeah.
You know, we all want to say my life is a 10. And Tom, my life is a 10. But we're all working on it, you know, right? So this community will help support you on whatever path you are taking to make your life a 10.
Yeah. Some of you out there may be in Noins. Shout out to Baba Booey out there. Anyway, and you want to bump it up 1 point, join that community and let us know what you want to see happen moving forward in that. Okay. So if we can get those basics down, just like in the Top Sand community, we talk about to have really good mental health, at least to have the foundation, you need to get those 5 elements.
your top sand score. Your 5 elements is sleep, 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep a night consistently, good sleep hygiene. Some basic nutrition, eating some good foods instead of garbage, preserved foods all the time. Hydration, a basic schedule so you know what you're doing, day in and day out kind of thing. And some basic exercise, whether that's some cardio, lifting something heavy, doing something. So exercise, water, nutrition, sleep, and schedule.
And this is what you said the other day that I loved. If you get all those things dialed in, you're like halfway there, at least, maybe even more so, of your life being a 10.
Right. Because those things, if you get those 5 things down, you are building your resiliency, right? You are the best you can be physically, right?
Yeah.
And so what is resiliency? So the definition of a happy life is not the absence of adversity. The definition of a happy, because that's ridiculous. We all have adversity, and we get mad when adversity comes at us. That's life. Life is adversity.
Yeah.
The definition of a happy life is how we manage the adversity that comes at us. And if you work on those top 5 things, you are as resilient as possible to start to manage the adversity that comes at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you can have those 5 things in your individual life and you're at least halfway there to approaching my life as a 10, then we can, as a community, figure out what do we do for the other half? How do we get you up there? And if your life is a 10 and if your relationship has all 3 of those keystone elements, trust, mutual respect, we make each other better. I mean, like, think about how successful you're going to be in life just having those things in place.
Right. So, you get those basic 5 down. How can this community help you get to a 6, get to a 7, get to an 8, get to a 9? How do we eventually get you to a 10?
Yeah. So
check it out. It's cool.
Yeah. So relationships, once again, can be your biggest support system or could be your biggest cause for consternation.
Consternation, not constipation.
Not constipation.
It can do that probably too, but consternation.
Yeah, for sure. Stress, Anyway, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for being part of the live. Thanks for listening to the show. Send your questions to questions@therapyonzip.com. Check out the Top Sand community and let us know what you need or what you want moving forward.
Yeah, we're here to support you.
Thanks for being here.
Well, I'm here to support you, but they're, a close second.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Be well. Sweet, man. Great show. I know it's still live up there, but I'll go turn that off.
Nice show. That was fun.
Hey, we appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.